How many of you do not want GMOs in your body? Yes? Okay, a lot of people. All right.
I think first of all, there's a lack of awareness on the planet about GMOs, and that's intentional.
Do you guys know what GMO stands for?
Genetically modified. I'm not sure.
Genetically modified.
Something modified. I can't remember the last word.
No, I have no idea.
Genetically modified something.
Genetically modified.
No. Okay.
Genetically modified organism?
What is a GMO? I don't know, so I really don't care. It doesn't affect me. I'm not sick. I'm fine. So.
GMOs, while they might not be dangerous on their own, they do interact with the world and the environment. And so the chemicals that is used to grow them, the pesticides that are built into them, we take them in and they become a part of our bodies.
Apparently, the FDA will allow companies to put the word natural on a product label as long as it says JKLOL on the back of the product.
Issues around labeling is a tough one because I'm a big fan of, I don't know the name of the store, it's in the UCC on the ground floor and they sell.
Grocery checkout.
Okay, so like, I mean, I was thrilled when they arrived and it's a great alternative.
Hi, we're here in an organic grocery store searching for non-GMO food items. We're in the organic spice section, all of which are organic, yet none of which are GMO free.
Stone Mill is an organic bread loaf, but we looked into the ingredients and it is not GMO free.
Looking at spice bars,
They are not GMO free.
But like Whole Foods, you need to look at the labels carefully. So let's say you want to buy organic bananas. Okay, unless it says these are organic, they're not. All right. So you've got to look at the labels carefully, and it's that same way at Whole Foods. Whole Foods will, when they have in stock, sell ethical organic produce. But when it's not in stock, they'll sell whatever you could get at No Frills, right? They'll often sell the same products. So just because the store has a certain branding awareness doesn't mean that you should just walk in blindly and buy from them.
Genetically modified organisms.
yeah, organism.
Yeah.
Do you know if your products are GMO free?
The majority of our products should be GMO free, yes.
Okay.
What you need to do, unfortunately, is read the labels.
Nicole Lamb talks about the difficulty in pinpointing GMO foods on campus. While she discusses the benefits in yielding more crop and formulating beneficial traits, it is important to understand that there is a miscommunication to the consumer because the food inspection agencies and Health Canada are approving harmful products in the name of money.
So on this campus, you would need to, it would be really interesting for you to dig into essentially what we have to have, and in many ways let's say it's necessary for efficiency's sake, but we have a series of blanket vendor agreements that just kind of put a dome over the campus. And so, there's one large company that, to my understanding, peels off food of different kinds to the different kitchens on campus, and then they produce different iterations of food. But it's kind of one large company like Aramark or something like that. They do stadiums and things like that. And then you have the other multinational, large fast food chains on campus. And then that's it. And a lot of that is because these are large companies, the liability is offloaded to them. So let's say somebody gets food poisoning, and they do here on campus every few years. You get like an outbreak of food poisoning. The university's not liable, right? The large corporation that's providing the food is liable. Okay, that makes really good sense for Western to offload it to these contractors because, Western doesn't have to have employees or insurance to cover those sorts of things. It's very efficient. But the problem with a system that's that efficient is it doesn't allow for it to be tinkered with or tailored at a local level. So what it means is there's a dome over the campus, so you can't allow local food, organic food, unless it comes from one of these multinationals, and they tend not to sell that sort of stuff. It's better to sell overpriced garbage, fast food, high fructose syrup vending products, because those are just the systems that have always been in place, than it is to try and innovate and sell healthy local food, right? So there really is a monopoly on this campus, and it exists for reasons of efficiency. But the downside is, the unintended consequences is that it prevents healthy food from being sold on campus. It prevents local initiatives from taking place, and prevents students from being, healthy and having choices on campus.
To approximate the prevalence on campus, we also checked out the protein store in the UCC.
This one would be a big one, if it was or not.
This one does not look like it's GMO free. Usually it's pretty clearly labeled because they want to.
Yeah, they want to tell you, right? I don't know. So we got some stuff.
So we're just going down the aisles. This is non-GMO free.
I found one.
Be surprised to know that there's.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. You would assume that more things would be GMO free, but
Does that matter to you?
Marketing.
Is it something you think about?
it's not really something I think about. And I should know what GMO stands for more often, but because I do study dietetics.
To be honest, unless it says this is not GMO, it's GMO. That's basically the world we live in. So it has to say this is not GMO. And that's pretty problematic, I think. And that's intentional. It's from lobbying, anti-food labeling lobbying groups. So the idea is intentional amnesia. It's a non-issue. That's the issue in the United States and in Canada. In Europe, it's a different story. They're much more open and transparent about labeling. But that's really because, this is mostly North American multinational businesses that are profiting off of GMOs, which are biological property patented.
Monsanto. For 20 years, I've traveled the globe, and everywhere I've heard about this American multinational. But what I've heard hasn't always been positive. Wanting to know more, I surfed the web for months to put the pieces of the puzzle together. On its website, Monsanto positions itself as an agricultural company that aims to help farmers produce healthier food while reducing agriculture's impact on our environment. Its leading product is Roundup, the world's best-selling herbicide for the last 30 years.
If the food was labeled, we could find those companies liable. So it's much better to make GMOs a total mystery, meaning it's willfully engineered into the system that we don't know where our food comes from, and it has to do with liability and it has to do with market share.
First, let's discuss the facts of Monsanto. Food and food ingredients from genetically engineered plants were introduced into our food supply in the 1900s. At the onset, in 1981, Monsanto developed a technology to add desirable traits by transferring genetic material from one organism to another. This technology adds beneficial traits to certain foods, such as the ability to grow during drought or a resistance to pesticides. By 2000, Monsanto dominated the seed and pesticide industries with insect-resistant corn and soybeans. Today, almost all the canola and corn grown in Canada is genetically engineered, and the sale of genetically engineered salmon was approved by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency and Health Canada last year. Monsanto claims that it is a, quote, lifestyle, end quote, company, yet they earn most of their revenue from the sale of chemicals. Proponents of GMOs claim that genetic engineering increases productivity and helps farmers, quote, feed the world. Herbicide-resistant potatoes, for instance, save farmers $6 per acre on insecticide control. In comparison, for an organic, ecological farm, the same potatoes increase costs by $25 to $115 per acre. Genetic engineering increases chemical use to create, quote, superweeds, superpests, and superviruses, end quote, rather than controlling weeds, pests, and disease. This increase in chemical use adds new risks of genetic pollution and the narrowing of the genetic basis of our food supply. For some crops, such as soybeans, there are few commercially available alternatives to GMO seeds, even if a grower wanted to plant a GMO-free variety. Once consumed, the genetically engineered DNA of these foods can break down and enter the bloodstream. The ingested DNA can end up in the spleen, liver cells, and white blood cells. While biotechnical corporations are wealthy and powerful, farmers have decreased control over their produce and offer lower diversity to the consumer. Thus, individual choices become increasingly limited, and consumers' right to know what's in their food is fundamentally denied.
To be honest, you live in a food desert, a kind of food desert. If you're talking about quality, sustainability, ethics, and affordability, right? You live in a desert. Those four things don't exist. It's a really tough response because you're not really here to just be hanging out. Like, you're busy, you're stressed, you have other things on your mind. So really the last thing you're thinking about is, you have time to think about is food. And so what you're really doing is just trying to spend as little money as possible on campus. And then after several months, you get sick of eating the low quality, expensive food, and you go blow your wad and get an expensive meal that's probably made of the same stuff that's reconfigured.
The World Health Organization announced that the most common of the non-restricted herbicides is, quote, probably carcinogenic in humans, end quote. A case study in Hawaii revealed that when spraying is underway and the wind blows downhill from the fields into the town, residents complain of stinging eyes, headaches, and vomiting. There is an association between pesticides and adverse birth outcomes, including physical birth defects. During pesticide drifting periods, local schools are evacuated and children are sent to hospitals. Often, doctors complain about the difficulties in treating patients when they don't know which chemicals the children were exposed to.
So how do you fight it? Well, you'd have to fight it at the Senate level. You live in a world where, like the Matrix, your future has been predetermined for you, and all you can merely do is just respond with the few options that you have. But this points out larger problems. So how could you speak back to it? One is the almost impossibility of having ethical, local, organic, sustainable food on campus. It's almost impossible because the university is not configured to be able to address it. So you'd have to have Senate address it.